Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2014, it's a Hyundai Elantra. We're going to be changing the front and the rear brakes. Okay, now these are the back brakes, and they look very similar to the fronts, but they are a little bit different. We're going to do the exact same thing to try to loosen up these bolts right here. We're going to get in here with the driver. Remember, we talked about that. You go on here with the driver and you hit it a couple of times and you're able to loosen it up, and you're able to get it out with a regular screwdriver. We are going to have to take this caliper off right here, and this caliper, as you know, has the parking brake built into it. So what we need to do is we need to take that piston, and instead of pushing that piston back in, we need to rotate that piston back in and push at the same time. But I will show you how to do that. You do need a special tool to do this, but if you don't have the special tool, we can do it with just these long needle nose pliers. We can do it. I'll show you how that works. All right, we're going to take out that 14mm bolt there and there. We're going to take the caliper off to the side, and then we're going to take off this mounting bracket in the back over here. There's actually 14mm here instead of being 17. They're 14. We're going to take off this one and one more down inside here. We're going to take that off, and we'll take that mounting bracket off. We'll knock that rotor off. We'll clean up the hub itself, and then we'll put it back together. So sounds easy, but we'll see how it goes. Now remember, we talked about loosening up these screws right here. We're going to get in here with a driver, and we're going to just loosen it. And you can see they're nice and tight. They don't come out. All right? So we're going to get on here with a driver. You're going to hold at a slight angle. It's not going to be perfectly straight, and you hit it pretty sharply. Now, you should be able to get it out, but it's not. Okay, so we're going to take our driver now, and we're going to put a driver on here like this. We're going to hold it. It takes it right out. Sometimes they're really tight. But this driver does come in very, very handy to get the screws out that are really too tight to get out with a Phillips head. Now, if by chance you try to get this out and you strip out the screw right here, you can get in here with a chisel and you can just chisel it out and you can get it out. All right, so now we have these two screws out here. We're going to take out these bolts in the back here. They're actually 14mm. So we're going to get in here with a wrench. I'm sorry, with a ratchet. Now, if you can't get in here with a ratchet, it's a little bit tight, you can get in here with a wrench as well and take it out just like that. Now, the bottom bolt here is a little bit tight to get in there, so you're probably going to use a wrench to get in here. I'll bring you in there, I'm going to show you why. You see right here? It's a little bit tighter to get in there. You know what? Maybe that's a good spot for you. Okay, you take it out like this. Now don't lose these because we are going to use these over again. Same thing on the top up here. We're going to take that out. And then we're going to take our caliper and just rotate it back and forth a little bit. And this is what I was telling you about. This is what I was telling you about, where you have to rotate this piston back in. Now we have a tool that we use, whether this piece here would go in here like this. These little pieces here go into those grooves right there. It goes in like this, like that, and then we would take this tool here, like this, and we put it in here like this, and then we turn the piston back in. I'm going to show you how to do it, not using this. I'm going to show you how to do it using a pair of needle nose pliers. So let me do that. I will tell you this, it is a little more difficult doing it with these needle nose pliers versus trying to do it with the correct tool. But either way, what you're going to do is you're going to get in here, the little scribe or a screwdriver, and just make sure that that boot right there moves around and it's not binding, because one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to twist this boot here. We don't want to twist that, so you want to make sure that it actually turns in. Take a pair of pliers like this. I'm sorry, take a pair of needle nose pliers, and you rotate it like this, and you see it pushes in. It's a little tight going in, but if you keep constant pushing in and rotating, it'll go back in. Nice and easy. And you see how the boot is now twisting? There's all different kind of tools that they make to do this. And we'll rotate it back in until we have these two lined up straight up and down the way that it was previously. All right, now if that doesn't work, you can use the tool as made for it. It goes in here like this, and then you rotate it, and it turns that back in. But that's how you do it using the other tool. Now, this one, normally I'll hang it with a hanger like this, but in this case it doesn't really matter because we have the parking brake is still attached to it, so we're not going to worry about that. But I am going to take out those 14mm bolts in the back on that mounting bracket up in there. There's two 14mm bolts there, right there, and right there, and we're going to take that off. And you want to break them both loose before you try to take them out. You want to make sure they're both loose. Make sure you have your lock washer. Okay, we'll take this off. It sticks a little bit because of all the rust lip on here, but we don't have to worry about that. This we're going to come back to momentarily. And now to get this rotor off, you can get in there with all different kinds of tools. If you just hit it a couple of times, it usually pops right off, so let's do that. All right, and we'll take this off. Now this hub right here, we have to clean this up, so you can use your scraper, a scraper like this to clean it up. You can use a disc like this to clean it up. You can use emery cloth, whatever you have. You want to make sure that all of that rust is off of there. So let me clean this up. Once it's cleaned, then we'll come right back. We cleaned up the hub nice and clean inside here, and we're going to put our rotor back on, and we're going to put our two screws back in to hold it in place. Okay, our screws are lined up. We did put a little bit of Never-Seez on these, so we're not going to have an issue in the future. You want to catch everything loosely, and then you can tighten it all up. Nice and tight, nice and tight. All right. Okay, we're going to take our brake pads out, and you can just tap them and they come right out. Now it could be rusty. If it is rusty, it's no big deal. You can just bang it pretty hard and it'll come right out anyway. All right. And then we take our hardware kit off like this. Just put your thumbs in it like that and push it, and it comes right out. All right. Okay, now if this was rusty inside here, you need to clean it off with a file like this or sandpaper or something. This is not rusty, so we're not going to have to worry about that, but we are going to lubricate it before we put it back together. All right. Now our slide pins, we take our slide pins out just like this. There's brake cleaner on my rag. You wipe off the slide pins, and then you put a little bit of lubricant back on the slide pin just like that. We put it back in, and we do one at a time because you want to make sure it goes back into the same location that it came out. Make sure that that rubber boot right there pops back up. Very important. And then we'll do the exact same thing on this one. Again, one at a time, because you don't want to mix them up. Just a little bit like this. And make sure it pushes all the way back down until it pops up. Right? Okay, we just put this stuff off to the side like this. And then we're just going to take a little bit of lubricant. And I always put a little bit of the silicone underneath where the new hardware is going to go. It keeps it from rusting in the future. And we're going to take this and push it on. And we want to make sure that these little clips here pop in all the way where they belong. All right. Now we take a little bit of the silicone and put the silicone every place that the brake pad is going to touch. Just like that. Okay. And now we know that, you see, this is where the inner brake pad was on the old brake pad. You want to make sure that we have this one in the same location too, with the indicator in the correct location. So we know this one here is the inner pad, and we're just going to put it in like this. And you can see how it slides in there nice and freely. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side over here, just like this. Push it in, and it should push freely up and down, just the way that this one is right here. All right, so now our brake pads are in the way it's supposed to be with our hardware. Let's go back on the car, and we're going to catch these two bolts right back in here, and we'll tighten this up. Mounting bracket, put it on like this, squeeze the brake pads together, like that. And now we're going to take our two bolts that we previously took out, and we're going to catch them both in the back, and you want to catch them both before you tighten anything up. Alright, now that we have the bolts torqued in there, every place that this brake pad is going to touch, you put a slight bead of the silicone like this, silicone brake grease. And now we take our caliper, put it on over the top like this, and we'll grab our bolts, and we're going to screw them both in by hand. We're going to do both of them caught first before you tighten anything up. We're going to screw it in just by hand for now. We'll do the same thing on the bottom here. You may have to push the caliper in slightly to get that bolt in. And now, if you remember correctly, we used a 14mm wrench to tighten this and loosen it. So we're going to tighten it up with the 14, nice and tight. Okay, nice and tight. Now, if you're trying to tighten this bolt and this slide pin is rotating, that's when you will get in here with a thin wall wrench and hold it, and then you will get on here like this and tighten it up. That's not the case because it actually tightened up perfectly, but that's it. We're all done. All right, so let's go over this, and we'll make sure we're all set. Okay, we cleaned up the hub right here where the rotor is going on, made sure all that rust is off underneath there, and we tightened that up. We put these screws in here, we put never-sees on here, and here, and we tightened up the two Phillips head. We cleaned our rotor off with some brake cleaner. We installed our mounting bracket. We tightened up those 14mm bolts in the back here and down the bottom over here. We installed our new hardware kit here and lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch. We turned our piston back in as far as it would go, and we also made sure that we tightened up these 14mm bolts right here. That's it, we're all set. Okay, so that's it, you're all set. We did the front and the rear. We made sure that everything is back together the way it was. We made sure in our head that all of the bolts that we went over, that we made sure everything is tight the way it's supposed to be. Next thing you're going to do, obviously, put the wheels back on the vehicle, and before you drive it, you're going to get in the vehicle, you're going to pump the brake pedal several times, you're going to notice that that brake pedal is going to go right to the floor. That's a perfectly normal thing to happen. You pump it 3 or 4 times, that sets the piston back out. Remember the pistons we pushed in? By pumping the brake pedal, it'll push the pistons back out until they come in contact with the brake pads, and the brake pad then comes in contact with the rotor. So it's normal for that pedal to be squishy or go down to the floor for 4, 5, 6 times while you pump it. And then after that, your pedal comes right up and you're all done. You're out the door and ready to go. All right, it is normal to get a little bit of a burning smell. Don't freak out about it. As I always tell all my customers, you're going to get a little burning smell. No matter how much you clean off the rotors, you'll never get all of that grease off of there, whether it's in the ribs of the rotor, or in this case here, it's in the back where the parking brake is, or whatever. You're always going to have a little bit of smoke. Nothing to worry about. It'll burn off within a couple of miles of driving. And that's it. You're all set. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.